So now we're doing modeling linear inequalities day 2. Our task is to draw an oval on the graph to represent the solution to each question. Write the corresponding inequality statement. So number 1 says, Alan's camping troop hikes down from their campsite at an elevation of 4,800 feet to the base of the mountain, which is at sea level. They hike down at a rate of 20 feet per minute. The function f of x is equal to negative 20x plus 4,800 represents the height of the troop as they hike down the mountain. How many minutes have passed if the troop is below 3,200 feet? Okay, so we're going to have to draw an oval on the graph. So we're going to circle the section of the graph that represents the solution. So let me see, if we want to know how many minutes has passed if the troop is below 3,200 feet, then you're going to look at the graph and find 3,200, which is, wow, it's going to be hard to see. The 3,200 would be somewhere between 3,000 and 3,500, so like there-ish. And then let's put a dotted line until we touch our graph. So it's somewhere over there. And then if we want to be, oops, hold on. So now we're just going to circle the section that is below 3,200 feet. So should I circle the top part or the bottom part if I want below 3,200 feet? Bottom, good. So I'm going to circle everywhere here. So this is our oval. It's an oval because, you know, you're circling something that's long. So we're going to draw an oval on the bottom part because that's below 3,200 feet. All right, so now that we circled it, it's a little bit hard for us to see how much time in minutes it is, right? Like, what even is that? What even is this number? Like, who knows what that is? So we're going to solve for it using the equation as well. So we haven't gotten the answer yet. We're going to get the answer now. So let's write out this part. So we have negative 20x plus 4,800. And we want this to be below 3,200 feet. So I'm going to write is less than 3,200. Because if you want it below, then you want less. You want it to be smaller numbers because you want to be below 3,200 feet. So therefore, I use the less than symbol. So we once again took this, we wrote it right here. So negative 20x plus 4,800 is less than 3,200. And now we're going to solve for x. So to solve for x, first thing we do is subtract 4,800 from both sides. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to scoot. Okay, and also remember that in this class, you can always use a calculator. So these two will cancel out. We will have negative 20x is less than 3,200 minus 4,800. So that would give us 1,000 or negative 1,600. Okay, I'm going to pause here, see if you have any questions. All right, so then the next step is to get x by itself, we must divide by negative 20. We divide by negative 20 because right now x is being multiplied to negative 20. So the opposite of multiplying is dividing by negative 20. So divide by negative 20 on both sides. The negative 20s will cancel out with each other because they are opposites. We will be left with x. And then on the other side, we have 1,000 or negative 1,600 divided by negative 20. When you divide a negative by a negative, you will now get a positive 80. So negative divided by negative gives us positive. You will also notice that I didn't write the symbol again. When you divide by a negative, when you're solving inequalities, you're actually going to flip the symbol. So now it should be x is greater than 80. Okay, and I'll give you an example to show that again in a little bit, but just take my word for it right now that when I divide or multiply by a negative when solving inequalities, you must flip the symbol. So the less than now becomes x is greater than 80. You can also look on the graph we're circling the part to the right of 80. That has to be greater than 80. You don't want x is less than 80. This side would be wrong. So our final answer is x is greater than 80. So how many minutes have passed if the troop is below 3,200 feet? More than 80 minutes have passed. Okay, and I'm going to give you guys some time to write that out and to ask questions. All right, so I promised you guys I would give you an example to show why you always have to flip the symbol. So I'm going to just do that over here on the top part in this empty space. Okay, so I'm going to give you a really basic example. 1 is less than 2. This is a true statement. 1 is less than 2. You'd rather have 2 cookies than have 1 cookie because 1 is a smaller number than 2. Now, I told you that if we were to multiply or divide by a negative number, you must flip the symbol. So let's do the most basic thing and multiply both sides by negative 1. So I'm going to multiply by negative 1. So when you multiply both sides by negative 1, 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Now, I told you have to flip the symbol, and that is because negative 1 is a bigger number than negative 2. Take a look at the number line. We have negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2. Numbers on the right are bigger. Wait, why can't I write my letter G? There you go. Numbers on the left are smaller. Okay? So 1 is greater than negative 2 because if you take a look, 1 is more to the, or negative 1 is more to the right. So therefore, negative 1 is greater than negative 2. And then if you take a look at 1 is less than 2, well, you guys already knew that one intuitively. 1 is less than 2 because 2 is more to the right. So if you're going to multiply it by negative 1 or divide by negative 1, you have to flip the symbol, okay? Yeah, exactly. If there were frosted sugar cookies, you would want 3. 3 is bigger than 2, but if you were to multiply by negative 1, then negative 2 would be the bigger number than negative 3. Okay, so that's why you must flip the symbol when you multiply by a negative or divide by a negative. Okay, I'm just going to write that out. And you should write this sentence out, okay? Flip the symbol when, why is it not letting me write? Come on. When multiplying or dividing by a negative. Okay, I'll zoom in over here. Flip the symbol when multiplying or dividing by a negative. I know I kind of smushed it in with this thing, so I'm just going to cross all of this out so it doesn't get in the way. Flip the symbol when you multiply or divide by a negative. Okay, I'll give you guys some time to write, and I'll pause the video. All right, so now let's go on to the next problem. So number 2, Alan's camping troop is selling popcorn to earn money for an upcoming camping trip. Each camper starts with a credit of $25 towards his sales, and each box of popcorn sells for $3.75. The function f of x is equal to 375x plus 25 represents Alan's total sales. How many boxes must Alan sell to have at most 1,600 in sales? Alrighty, so let's just pick a different color, because why not? Okay, at most 1,600 in sales. That means you want 1,600 or less. So let's go find 1,600 on our graph. Okay, here's 1,600 in total sales. So luckily for us, it's right on the line, and you can see that it happens right here. I'm just gonna put a dot there. And then just make our dotted lines down. All right. And if we want him to have at most 1,600 in sales, that means you don't want him to have more than that for some reason. You want him to have 1,600 or less. So I'm going to circle the bottom. So we just circled the bottom part to represent him having at most 1,600 in sales. And now let's rewrite our equation so we can solve for it as well. So we have 3.75x plus 25. And then if we want at most 1,600, that is less than or equal to 1,600. So we want his total sales to be at most 1,600. Now to solve for x, we're going to subtract 25 from both sides. These cancel out. We get 3.75 is less than or equal to 1,600 minus 25 is 1,575. Oh, sorry, there's an x here, my bad. So 3.75x is less than or equal to 1,575. And finally, x is being multiplied to 3.75. So to get rid of multiplying, we do the opposite. We're going to divide by 3.75. So that way, since you do the opposite, they get to cancel out. You will be left with x is less than or equal to whatever that is. I'm going to use a calculator. 1,575 divided by 3.75. And that gives us 420. So we now know that Alan has to sell at most 420 boxes of popcorn. I'll just leave it as boxes because we don't have space to write of popcorn. All right, so at most 420 boxes of popcorn. I'm going to pause it here so that you guys get a chance to write. Oh, and by the way, we did not flip the symbol here because we divided by a positive 3.75, right? The number here was positive 3.75, so you keep the symbol the same way. But in the first problem, we divided by a negative, which is why we were forced to flip our symbol, okay? All right, now I'm going to pause it so you guys can write. Alrighty, so now we're on to solving each inequality, then graphing the results on the number line. So it's pretty much just the inequality, and we're going to solve it the way we solve equations pretty much. All right, so we got 5x plus 2 is greater than or equal to 3x minus 10. So I'm going to bring the x terms together. So there's a 5x and there's a 3x. For me, I think it's easier when we just subtract 3x to bring it over to this side. That way we have positive numbers to deal with. 5x minus 3x will give us 2x. The plus 2, you just bring it down. Is greater than or equal to. These get to cancel out, luckily. And then we have a negative 10 left over. So 2x plus 2 is greater than or equal to negative 10. All right, next we're going to subtract 2 from both sides. And then those get to cancel out. We are left with 2x is greater than or equal to negative 12. Finally, last but not least, we are going to divide by 2 on both sides. The reason for that is because x is being multiplied to 2. So the opposite of multiplying is dividing. That will help us cancel it out. So multiply by 2 and divide by 2 cancel each other out. You get your x is greater than or equal to negative 6. Okay, so that means we're going to have to graph this on the number line. So I'm going to go find negative 6. Here's my 0, here's my negative 10. So counting between that, negative 1, negative 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, it's over here. And so I'm going to put a solid black dot on it. The solid is because there is an equal to symbol. And then we want x is greater than. So greater than means you're going to point your arrow to the right. Okay, so you have a solid black dot to represent the equal sign, and then you go to the right. All right, I'm going to pause here, see if anyone has any questions. All All right, next problem. -4 times x minus 6 is less than 22. So there's a few ways that you can solve equations. There's always more than one right way, but I'm just going to show you one of the ways that you could do it. And I'm going to distribute the -4 to everything inside the parentheses. So yes, this is a -4 being multiplied, but since we're not doing it to both sides, we're going to keep the symbol the same because the -4 is only being multiplied to everything on the left side for now. We are not multiplying the -4 to the 22 on the right. So -4 times x is -4x. -4 times -6 is positive 24. Then it's less than 22 still. We're keeping the symbol the same because the -4 only got multiplied to the left side. You're going to flip the sign when you multiply or divide on both sides, okay? Right now we only did it on one side, so the symbol stays the same. So we have -4x plus 24 is less than 22. Now we can subtract 24, and then that gives us -4x, cancel that out, is less than -2. All right, x is being multiplied to -4. So to get rid of multiplying, we're going to do the opposite, which is divide by -4. And then that finally gets to cancel out. We'll have x over here, and then it's -2 divided by -4. That's going to be positive 1/2, aka 0.5, whichever way you prefer, but it is 1/2, positive. Now notice we finally did the thing where we divided by a negative number on both sides. Divided by -4 on the left, divided by -4 on the right. So that means our symbol needs to flip. So instead of a less than symbol, it becomes a greater than symbol. X has to be greater than 1/2 because we because we divided by a negative on both sides. Now we flipped our symbol. X is greater than 1/2. So 1/2 is going to be difficult to show over here, but I'm going to draw an empty circle between 0 and 1. That is my 1/2. And we want it greater, so I point the arrow to the right. So just so you know, this is an empty circle. Empty circle, or a hole. And it's empty because there is no equal to line under here. It's simply greater than. Notice that on the first problem we did, this is an equal to line. So that line that appears underneath it, that is an equal to line. So that's why this one is a filled in circle. Filled in circle because on our symbol we had an equal to line. Filled in circle because this is an equal to line. And then for number 4, we have an empty circle, also known as a hole, because there is no equal to line in our answer. Okay, so I'm going to pause here and see if you guys have any questions. All right, number 5. So x plus 2 divided by 5 is less than or equal to -1. So in order to get rid of this fraction, all you have to do is multiply by the bottom number, also known as the denominator. So a fraction is a division problem. So when it says x plus 2 over 5, that means x plus 2 is being divided by 5. The opposite of dividing is multiplying. So to get rid of our fraction, we just have to do the opposite. We have to multiply. Multiply both sides by 5. That way, our divided by 5 and our multiplied by 5 can cancel out, and that will leave us with x plus 2. And then it's less than or equal to -1 times 5 is -5. So since we multiplied with a positive number, our symbol stays the same. So we have x plus 2 is less than or equal to -5. Then solving for x, it has a plus 2 next to it. So the opposite of adding is subtracting, so we're going to subtract 2. That will get rid of the plus 2. So plus 2 and minus 2 cancel out. We are left with x is less than or equal to -7. So -5 minus 2 is -7. So here's our final answer. So let me go find -7 on our number line. All right, so it's over here. Should I fill in this hole or should I leave it empty? Tell me in the chat. Empty or filled? Empty or filled? Tell me in the chat. Should this be empty or filled? Good, you guys got it. Filled. Plenty of you have typed in the chat filled. Good, so this should be filled in. This should be filled in because of the equal to line. So fill in the circle. Because it has the equal to line. Okay? So yeah, we're going to fill it in because this symbol has the equal to line. It's less than or equal to -7. All right, finally, this says less than or equal to. Should I shade to the left or shade to the right for less than? Is it to the left or is it to the right? Type it in the chat, left or right for less. Good, yeah. Left, left, left. You guys are good. So an easy way you can think about it is L for left, L for less. They both have an L in it. So it's not to the right, we're going to shade it into the left. Or not shade it, but just draw your arrow, I guess. So arrow to the left to show that x is less than or equal to -7. And because it has the equal to line, we filled in the circle. All right, I'm going to pause here and see if you guys have any questions. All right, so it looks like nobody needed more time for that. And I believe that is the end of the notes. So for the skills practice, let me just briefly show you. You're only doing parts D and E, numbers 1 through 6. So let me scroll down. This is the part where you draw the oval and then you write your inequality to show your answer. This is also the oval thing. Oval, you draw your oval. All right, and this is like the part where you just solve and put it on the number line. Oops, sorry, I am lagging, I realize. Okay, so this is the part where you just solve and draw it on the number line. You will notice that you will have to put your own numbers on the number line. So like if your answer is 1/2, then you'll just put like, oops. If your answer is 1/2, then you can just put 1/2 in here. And then you can just draw your circle and fill it in if you need to. Just whatever your answer is, just put your number on the number line and then draw your arrow to the left or right. And then finally on the bottom, I've crossed them out in a different way. Yours is also crossed out. You don't do these because, like we said, we're only doing the first 2 parts. So you stop here. Don't do this last part, okay? All right, I'm going to end this recording.